Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining with us. I have Vince Botto, Business Management Consultant of Cogent Analytics, on the show with us today. Vince, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be back with you today.
I'm glad you're here. All right. Are there specific early indicators that business owners should be aware of that would indicate a negative turn in their business?
There are absolutely some early indicators, and so many times as we go into our clients, we realize that these things have just slipped by them for some reason. A few of the key early indicators, of course, are your cash. Unfortunately, a lot of small business owners don't watch their cash as closely as they should. But the other would be look at your sales. Are you having declining sales in terms of volume or in terms of the amount of revenue the sales are bringing? That goes into the question of the quality of sales that you're making. So oftentimes a business will start to lose sales, so they try to make it up with volume of lower profitable sales, and they create a real trouble for them. And the last one that I like to look at is I always want to make sure my accounts payables, is smaller than my accounts receivables. And I've been to a lot of small businesses where that's just the opposite is the case. They've let their payables get ahead, and in some cases they're buying inventory for future sales that they may or may not have. But AP to AR ratio is one that should be watched very closely as well.
All right. What types of things have you seen businesses miss which have led to their downfall? Like you got a quick case study for the situations?
Well, there's one thing that we had, and at Cogent, we had a client once who was focused on making display racks for shoes. And as we worked with this client, what we realized were they were a highly sophisticated design and custom woodworking company. And one of the things we did to help them turn their business around was we focused on their capabilities, not on what they had been selling. So they had been selling a very specific item, a shoe rack display, and we convinced them that, no, you can do anything you want to do with lamination and woodworking. You've got this sophisticated milling equipment. You've got some really brilliant engineers. Let's expand those capabilities. And through the work that we at Cogent did with this client, they are thriving now, and they've actually tripled their revenue and their profits. And the last call I had with this gentleman was he actually doesn't know what he's going to do with all the business he has. So it was kind of a nice turnaround. But the key takeaway there is so oftentimes a business gets really tunnel visioned on what they've done or what they've sold and don't take a step back and look at what their capabilities are and what they could be doing with those capabilities.
Good answer. All right. Now, if a business is in trouble, what fires should they look to put out first? And kind of
sorry to interrupt you, there's about three things that a business should absolutely jump on. And one of the first things, again, we at Cogent have a little bit of a formula in this, and one of the things we do is we stop spending. We start getting absolute control of every nickel that goes out of the business, whether it's collecting the credit cards from everyone that's got credit cards, clamping down on the checkbook and making sure we have one check run a week for everything that goes out. So make sure you stop the cash leaving the business. Now, in some cases, there are going to be some very difficult decisions that have to be made with a long-term supplier who may have cut you off. You may have to find an alternative supplier for some materials. The second part of the equation, which is so often overlooked, is go get the money that's owed you. It's amazing how many small businesses have, and I'll give you a case study in just a second, but have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are delinquent from being paid. And when I asked one business owner, why aren't you getting this money? He said, well, I have a very good relationship with the guy. And I said, is your relationship so good with that customer that you're willing to close down your father's business because he's not paying his bills? You've done your work, now go collect the money you get. So stop spending is the first thing, and right behind that is start becoming very aggressive on collecting the money that's owed to you.
Got it. Now that's and a lot of people are valuing the relationship
Exactly.
instead of the bottom line. Okay. Key metrics that every business should look at, and how often they should be looking at these.
Metrics are absolutely, metrics drive everything. And one of the things that we at Cogent always do for a business and leave behind is the key performance indicators that we want for a business. Now, some are fairly straightforward. We obviously put in a cash monitoring system. We want to see what your cash is, look out 13 weeks so you can see what your cash position is going to be, and it gives you the opportunity to see trouble ahead of time. So it's a nice leading metric. Some of the others are financial. You obviously want to look at your receivables and your payables. You want to make sure they come back in line. You don't want any of those getting too aged. Usually in a distressed situation, they're already aged, and we have to work to bring them back in. Then what's really unique about what we do at Cogent is each business is unique. For example, two businesses of the exact same type, let's say an electrical contractor, for example. One electrical contractor has a very strong sales presence. He's out aggressively seeking business. The other has a very strong business on referrals, so they don't have a strong sales presence. Well, on one business, we would create some sales metrics, such things as how many calls is a salesperson making, how many visits did that turn into, how many visits turn into bids, bids turn into quotes, so you get the whole sales funnel understanding. That would be a key metric for the one. On the other, we don't have that, but we do try to track how many bids are coming in, how many bids are won. So it's a matter of tailoring these key metrics to the business. And then there's always got to be some operational metrics involved. Labor dollar per revenue, overtime. You want to track some of those things. Those are some of the basics. But then you have to tailor them for the business. And that is really one of the strengths that we at Cogent hang our hats on, and we go in and create specific metric sets and dashboards for our clients.
Now, those are key elements, and they hit home with me from A to Z on this one. But there's more to it than just numbers. There's humans behind this. Talk to me about that.
I will tell you that that's probably the most rewarding part of this whole work, Michael, and that is when we go into a distressed business, more than not, more than one family is involved in the process, one family member. You may have the mother who is the owner of the business, but if the business is going south, you know that's going to impact her husband and her children and their relationship. It's really imperative to put the psychological hat on and work with the individuals to make sure why they started that business in the first place, what's critically important to them, and then to keep them on track. I had one client it was a brother and sister, and they were really at odds with each other. And I spoke with our president and said, I need some guidance on this. And he said, make them focus back on the business. Their issues with each other aren't with each other. It's not that they don't love each other as a brother and sister, but the business has gotten them so upset with the way their lives are that they attack each other instead of the business. So what we did was psychologically refocus them onto the business, onto the paper at hand, and talking about how we can change that metric and what we can do about that. The real benefit of this truly is if you can get this business turned around, and I haven't seen a client yet that we couldn't turn the business around with a little bit of help. Once you get it turned around and it's going back the way that the owner intended it, the stress comes off, which is unbelievable. And then you start seeing those relationships. So the one client I had was a father and son working together, and they were at each other. And by the end of the thing, the owner called me back and told me, he said, I have never had a stronger and better relationship with my son as a result of this. And it makes you realize, yeah, the business is great and you've got to get money in the bank, but more importantly, you want to make sure these people's lives have been enriched by the work we at Cogent have done for them.
Well put, Vince. Thanks for being a guest on today's show.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, Michael. Thank you.
My pleasure, and I know that all the people that watch this video are definitely going to take something away from it. Great job. All right, you've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.